Okay, 2.6, continuing, reflections and transformations. Now today I'm going to be giving you a function, and I want you to come up with a different function based on a set of directions of transformations for this. So this says given f of x equals 3x plus 7. So this is the function I'm going to manipulate and change. And I'm going to find the new function g of x. This function, g of x, which is the reflection of f of x over the y-axis. So basically what that means is I'm taking 3x plus 7, and I'm reflecting it over the y-axis. When you reflect over the y-axis, you are replacing x with negative x. This is equal to g of x. However, if I continue on with that calculation, and I multiply the 3 and the negative x together, I'm going to get this function right here. So negative 3x plus 7 equals g of x. That's the new function I wanted you to find. Next, f of x equals 2x minus 1. This is my original function. Now I want you to find g of x, and this time it's the reflection of f of x over the x-axis. If I'm reflecting it over the x-axis, I'm taking 2x minus 1, and I'm going to multiply the entire function by a negative. This is your g of x. If I distribute that, I get a negative 2x plus 1 is equal to g of x. That is your new function. Continuing on. This time, I give you the new function of f of x equals the absolute value of x, and I want you to stretch that by a factor of 4. Stretching that by a factor of 4 means you are simply multiplying that by the absolute value of x by 4. Then, you are going to reflect that over the y-axis. When you reflect that over the y-axis, what that means is you are essentially putting a negative on the inside with the x. Then the next thing says I'm going to left 2 units. Now, this is tricky because if you're going to go left 2 units, you are on the inside of this function. So if you're on the inside of this function, that means you have 4 absolute value, the negative sticks out here, and then I have parentheses inside there. Minus would mean to the left, but we're actually going to go to the right. Okay? And then down 9 units means all I have to do is simply subtract 9. So basically what we have here is 4 absolute value of negative parenthesis x plus 2 minus 9. If I wanted to go ahead and distribute that negative on the inside there, I'd have negative x minus 2 minus 9. Both of these would hold true and they would both be correct. Okay? Next, the graph of g of x is the graph of f of x equals 4x. Compressed vertically. So I'm taking this 4x, I'm going to compress it vertically by, I'm going to press it vertically by a factor of 1/2. You know what that means you're doing? You're taking 1/2 and multiplying it by 4x. So that right there is the same thing as 4 divided by 2 is 2x. Then it says that I need to go ahead and reflect it over the y-axis. If you're reflecting it over the y-axis, you're replacing x with negative x to give you negative 2x. This is your new function rule. Okay? The graph of g of x is the graph of f of x equals 2 of x. Stretched by a factor of 5. So here we go again. I'm going to take 5 times 2x to give me a 10x. Then it is going to be reflected over the x-axis. So if I'm reflecting that over the x-axis, I'm going to simply multiply that by a negative on the outside to give me negative 10x. And that is your new function rule. Okay. Now, reflections. Reflections mean you have to figure out if you're reflected over the x-axis or the y-axis and what to do. What your brain needs to understand, if you're reflected over the x-axis means the negative's on the outside. Over the y-axis, the negative's on the inside. So I'm giving you the original function right up here, which is negative 5x cubed minus 7. And I want you to reflect it over the x-axis and the y-axis. So over the x-axis, what this clearly means is I'm going to have a negative times a negative 5x cubed minus 7, and I simply distribute 5x cubed plus 7. that's reflected over the x-axis. Over on the next one, I'm going to replace x with a negative x. When I have a negative times a negative times a negative, it becomes a positive. So I have negative 5 times positive x cubed minus 7. Gives me negative 5x cubed minus 7, meaning when it isn't reflected over the y-axis in this particular problem, the function does not change, and that is okay. Okay? Then I'm going to give you a problem just like we did yesterday, and I'm going to say, all right, up, down, left, right, stretch, compress, reflect. So how do I go about doing that? F of x equals negative x, absolute value of x plus 9 minus 2. This negative is on the outside, so therefore it's a reflection over the x-axis. The 6 is a whole number, so therefore this is a stretch of 6. The plus 9 is the opposite direction of what you think it should go, so we think it's going to go to the right, so that means it's left 9. And lastly, it's minus 2, which means it's down 2, and then we already know it's the absolute value function. Last example, same exact thing. Parent function, we already know that. It's going to be x cubed. Then I'm going to go ahead and say this 2/3 means it's a compress. This minus 6 means I'm going to go to the right 6. And this plus 8 means I'm going to go up 8. There is no reflection, so I simply write none. Tonight's homework is 2-6 worksheet 2.